Good morning, America. Thanks for joining us this Tuesday. As we come on the air, there are new developments in the investigation of that deadly rampage in California. This morning, survival stories from that deadly shooting at the Garlic Food Festival in California, where a gunman killed 3 people. As we learn more about the shooter, the social media page filled with white supremacist messages, and the assault rifle he managed to purchase on the internet.
On alert. Hurricane Eric heading toward Hawaii. Tropical Storm Flossie right behind it as the Southeast braces for its own threat. Rob is here, tracking it all.
Do or die night on the debate stage. 10 Democrats preparing to face off just hours from now, some in a last-ditch effort to break through, as Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders get ready for a center stage showdown.
Massive hack. The Seattle woman under arrest for stealing personal information from 100 million Capital One customers. How to know if you were compromised.
Bucked by a bison. The 17-year-old airlifted to the hospital, attacked at a national park, sent flying 6 feet in the air. He's now telling his story.
An Old Town Road, riding its way to the record books, topping Elton John and Mariah Carey. Now her message for Lil Nas X as he takes the #1 throne.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
Good Morning America, the catchy tune to get you every time. And it is a good morning to be Lil Nas X.
It sure is. It's hard to believe that just a couple of months ago, there was a controversy over whether his song could even be on the country Billboard chart. Now it is officially breaking Billboard's record for most weeks at #1. We'll talk about that, more on that ahead. But first, George, we got a lot of news to get to this
We do have a
morning.
lot of news to get to, beginning with the latest on that deadly shooting at a Northern California food festival. It left 3 people dead, more than a dozen injured. Family and friends gathered for a vigil overnight. You see them right there, as investigators focus on a white supremacist social media account that may be linked to the gunman. Will Carr is on the scene in Gilroy. Good morning, Will.
And George, investigators say it will take days to comb through this massive crime scene. This has really been heartbreaking for this community. One local leader says the shooter waged war on this small town. But this morning, we're hearing some truly amazing stories of survival. After those terrifying moments at a California food festival, this morning we now know the names of the dead. 25-year-old Trevor Irby, 13-year-old Kayla Salazar, and Stephen Romero, who was just 6 years old. His father getting that gut-wrenching call from the boy's mother and rushing to the hospital.
Couldn't believe what was happening, that what she was saying was a lie. Maybe I was dreaming.
15 others were injured. Authorities now say this is the man responsible, 19-year-old Santino William Ligon. Investigators poring over his past, searching a home the gunman was once linked to, and scouring an Instagram page bearing his name that investigators say is filled with white supremacist messaging, not ruling out a potential suspect.
It seems that this was a random act, but again, we've got a long way to go before we can come to a determination.
Investigators believe the suspect legally purchased an AK-47 style rifle at a Nevada gun store on July 9th, then illegally transported that gun to California. The store owner telling ABC News he ordered the rifle off my internet page. When I did see him, he was acting happy and showed no reasons for concern. At a vigil overnight, the community coming together to mourn as survivors share their harrowing stories.
And the bullet shatterings just went all into my leg.
Nick McFarland and his best friend Justin Bates narrowly escaped critical injuries at Sunday's shooting.
I just say run like 3 or 4 times, and then after the 3rd time, you just hear and just gunshots going everywhere.
With shots flying, Bates immediately jumped on McFarland's girlfriend Sarah, potentially saving her life.
The doctor said about 5 to 7 different bullets grazed me.
Grazed you?
Grazed me.
By the grace of God, I have come face to face with a gunman with half my family there, and we all walked away alive.
Those victims wanted us to convey their thoughts to the families of the people who lost their lives here. At the same time, they also want to thank law enforcement for moving so quickly before this could have been even worse. Michael.
Yes, thank you so much, Will, and our thoughts with those families as well. And now to that growing tropical threat in the Pacific. Hurricane Eric is picking up strength, and Tropical Storm Flossie is right behind it. Rob Marciano's here with the latest. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Michael. And one more fresh off the coast of Mexico, 20% chance of development with this. But Flossie Flossie, Eric, these are the ones we're most concerned about as Hawaii in the past. Let's start with Eric, now about 1,000 miles off the coast of Hawaii, but you can see in the satellite picture the last couple of frames a little bit of an eye developing here. Right now, an 85-mile-an-hour storm forecast to become a Cat 2, likely stay south of Hawaii, but certainly very close to the path. We'll see big waves, rain at the very least with this as we head towards Thursday and Friday. Now, Flossie, about 1,000 miles off the coast of Baja California. This is forecast to be a Cat 3. This is forecast to get a little bit closer to Hawaii if you extend these computer models out. So we'll be watching this very closely as we get towards this weekend and the beginning part of this week. And we also have the potential threat for some action in the southeast and the Atlantic. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes.
Okay, Rob, thanks. We're going to turn to Washington now. President Trump tweeting late into the night, upping his attacks against Congressman Elijah Cummings and his Baltimore area district. Let's bring in ABC's Kira Phillips there at the White House. Kira, the president really seems to be digging in here. He's now denying these attacks are racist.
Absolutely right, Cecilia. And even as his critics call his language inflammatory and divisive, the president seems unwilling to let his feud with Congressman Cummings fizzle. And now President Trump has another target in his crosshairs, Reverend Al Sharpton.
This morning, as President Trump speaks in historic Jamestown, Virginia, a group of black state lawmakers plan to boycott. This following Trump's repeated attacks on minority members of Congress. Overnight, the president ramped up his tweets targeting Oversight Chairman Elijah Cummings and his majority black Baltimore district, calling the city the worst and making the unsubstantiated claim that billions of dollars had been stolen or wasted. Neither the president nor his staff offered any proof to back up the charge.
The comments are just outrageous and inappropriate.
And his latest target? Reverend Al Sharpton, who spoke in Baltimore Monday. The president lashed out, calling the civil rights activist a con man and a troublemaker who hates whites and cops. Sharpton fired back.
I'm going to keep making trouble for bigots. As far as me being a con man, if he really thought I was a con man, he'd be nominating me for his cabinet.
As Democrats present a united front, Republicans not condemning the president's remarks. Congressman Mark Meadows, considered an ally of the president and a good friend of Cummings.
You're one of my best friends. I know that shocks a lot of people.
And likewise, Mr. Chairman.
Now Meadows breaking his silence, stating, "I know both men well. Neither man is a racist, period." Senator Tim Scott, the only African-American Republican senator, told the state newspaper that he didn't think Trump's tweets were racist, instead calling the president an equal opportunity offender.
And George, Congressman Cummings' committee is spearheading a number of investigations into Trump's administration, escalating a probe now into private email and cell phone usage, authorizing a subpoena for communication records from White House officials that include Ivanka and Jared Kushner. We'll stay on it, George.
Okay, Kira, thanks. That's not the only one either. On the heels of these attacks, Chairman Cummings released a new report yesterday detailing how one of the president's closest personal friends and political allies was trying to use his influence to cozy up to dictators in the Middle East and profit from his relationship with the president. Let's bring in our senior congressional correspondent, Mary Bruce, for more on that. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, his name is Tom Barrack. He's one of the president's longtime friends. He actually ran his inaugural committee. And according to this report, Barrack once pushed the White House to sign off on a deal with Saudi Arabia to build dozens of power plants, a deal that could have benefited Barrack financially. He also once gave one of his associates with close ties to Gulf leaders a sneak peek at one of the president's energy speeches so that he could have a chance to make edits. George, this report says that there are serious questions about whether the White House is willing to place the potential profits of the president's friends above the national security of the American people. And it is exactly the kind of oversight of the Trump administration that is likely putting the chairman of this committee, Elijah Cummings, in the president's crosshairs.
Certainly seems so, Mary. Let's switch gears now, talk about the debates. The second round of Democratic debates begins tonight. It's going to be over 2 nights, 10 candidates on each stage each night. And tonight, the frontrunners in the center of the stage are going to be Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. And one of the big questions is their political allies. Will they go after each other or the frontrunner who's not on the stage?
Yeah, George, exactly. Tonight is going to be all about this showdown between these progressive powerhouses, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. But I wouldn't expect many fireworks because these two are friends. They are longtime political allies. So far, they have been hesitant to attack each other out on the campaign trail. Their truce tonight, of course, will be tested, but it is unlikely that at this stage in the game they see much benefit to going after each other. They're likely to direct their fire at the frontrunner Joe Biden.
And for so many others on the stage tonight, it really is going to be a do or die moment. If they don't get something going, they're unlikely to make the third debate, which ABC is hosting in September.
Exactly, George. So much of the action tonight is actually likely to be on the wings of this stage. For a lot of these candidates, this is really their last best chance to try and make a splash on the national stage and qualify then for the next debate, for our next debate. We're going to be keeping a close eye on those candidates from the red and purple states like Governors Hickenlooper and Bullock, Representative Tim Ryan. They're going to have some kind of a breakthrough moment tonight, George.
Mary Bruce, thanks very much, Michael.
All right, thank you, George. Now to that massive data breach affecting 100 million people. A woman is now facing charges accused of hacking Capital One credit card applications and accounts. Rebecca Jarvis joins us now with the details. 100 million people.
And it's so many people, Michael, and this just keeps happening. Every single day we hear about a new data breach, this time impacting millions of Capital One customers. Now one of the largest data breaches in history.
This morning, Paige Thompson, a Seattle software engineer, under arrest after authorities say she hacked credit card issuer Capital One, gaining access to more than 100 million applications, exposing credit scores, balances, payment history, and contact information. 140,000 Social Security numbers and nearly 80,000 bank account numbers compromised too. Investigators say they tracked Thompson, who went by the name Erratic on Twitter, after she allegedly posted the stolen information to a site using her name and email address, allegedly tweeting the bank, quote, "I've basically strapped myself with a bomb vest," dropping Capital One's documents and admitting it.
Promise that you'll never find another like me.
Capital One, which is endorsed by A-list celebrities like Taylor Swift, Samuel L. Jackson, and Jennifer Garner, says customers whose information has been breached will be notified and will offer free credit monitoring and identity theft protection.
And if convicted, the suspect faces up to 5 years in prison and a fine, Michael.
Is it possible that consumers could possibly get a settlement out of this?
It's possible. We just saw that with Equifax, that consumers are getting a settlement. We've seen it in previous data breaches. The biggest thing right now is to take advantage of that free credit monitoring and stay on top of those bank accounts. Everyone should be doing that regularly, regardless of whether you deal with Capital One or not.
Stay on top of your credit.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Rebecca.
All right, guys, we're going to turn to jailed rapper A$AP Rocky appearing in court in Sweden for the first time this morning. He's on trial for assault after that street fight caught on camera. James Longman has the very latest. Good morning, James.
Good morning, Cecilia. Celebrities, activists, fans, even the president have taken up A$AP Rocky's cause. Well, now, after nearly a month in jail, his trial in Sweden is finally underway.
Got anything to say about the Swedish legal system?
Cameras catching hip-hop artist A$AP Rocky's mother and lawyer, who arrived in court for day one of his 4-day trial. The 30-year-old, whose real name is Rakim Myers, was arrested along with 2 of his backup performers on suspicion of assault while in Sweden to perform in a music festival, days after this June 30 street fight. Video obtained by TMZ. The musician saying he acted in self-defense, posting this video on Instagram, allegedly showing the moments leading up to that altercation.
We don't want to fight y'all. We're not trying to go to jail.
I put A$AP on my tab. I put New York on the map.
The Grammy-nominated American rapper and fashion trendsetter with multiple platinum hits has been awaiting trial in Sweden for nearly 4 weeks, while celebrities have rallied to his defense, including Justin Bieber, Kim Kardashian West, and husband Kanye, who personally lobbied the president to intervene.
I have been called by so many people asking me to help A$AP Rocky.
President Trump even speaking to the Swedish Prime Minister by phone on Thursday, chastising the country for its treatment of Americans. Tweeting, "I watched the tapes of A$AP Rocky and he was being followed and harassed by troublemakers. Treat Americans fairly." But the Swedish government saying in a statement the government is not allowed and will not attempt to influence the legal proceedings. A verdict is expected on Friday. Now, these kinds of charges carry a maximum 2-year prison sentence in Sweden. It's also understood that the man who was allegedly assaulted is asking for $15,000 in compensation. Michael?
All right, thank you so much, James. And now we're going to turn to Katy Perry facing a big setback in court. A jury unanimously decided her chart-topping hit, Dark Horse, copied a Christian rap song. ABC's Janae Norman is here with the story. Good morning, Janae.
Hey guys, good morning. So jurors sided with a relatively unknown artist after hearing those songs back to back. And while that Christian rap song wasn't the big hit Dark Horse was, lawyers argued it had millions of plays online and could have been heard by Perry and her producers. Mega pop star Katy Perry embroiled in a perfect storm after a grand jury ruled that her 2013 hit Dark Horse copied this 2008 song, Joyful Noise, from Christian rapper Marcus Gray, otherwise known as Flame. Listen closely. This is Joyful Noise.
You know what it is? I love it.
And here is Katy Perry's Dark Horse. Perry and the song's co-authors testified that none of them had heard the song or heard of Gray before the lawsuit. The singer's legal team argues the notes are only similar because they're basic building blocks of music. Gray's attorneys, however, said it's because her team heard it in his song first.
If you listen to these two songs side by side, the note progression at the center of both songs, that 4-note progression, it's very similar.
I love it.
Guess it's never really over.
The Never Really Over singer joins the list of celebrities who've been slapped with lawsuits claiming copyright infringement. Robin Thicke and Pharrell's smash hit Blurred Lines spent 10 weeks at #1 on charts in 2013, but 2 years later, a federal appeals court ruled that the single illegally copied from Marvin Gaye's Got to Give It Up. So at this point, it's still unclear how much Perry will be forced to fork over for copyright infringement, but it could be substantial. The jury in the Blurred Line settlement awarded Marvin Gaye's family about $5 million in damages.
Whoa.
They had to pay up big.
That's big.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Janae.
Thank you, Janae. We also have new developments this morning in that case involving 2 American teens arrested after an Italian police officer was stabbed. One of them is now claiming self-defense. The judge is not buying it.
And there's been a new bison attack. A 17-year-old thrown 6 feet in the air at a national park. Now he's speaking out. But first, let's go back over to Rob.
All right, guys, good morning again. I want to show you what's happening in the Atlantic. We showed you the very active Pacific Ocean. Do have a little bit of activity coming off the coast of Africa. This is the time of year we start to see these things cross the entire ocean. Of more concern is what's going on in the eastern Caribbean. We're seeing flare-ups over Puerto Rico. A small chance of this developing more of a problem of rainfall. We've got a flash flood watch out that's up for Puerto Rico now. And some of that rainfall is going to get up into the southeast coastlines here as we get closer towards the weekend. Meanwhile, the heat is on across the northeast. Kent, you know what's going on here. Up I-91, I-95, I-87, 93, 95, 95. This is what it'll feel like when you couple the heat with the humidity today. We get a bit of a break as that cool front that spawned some storms yesterday pushes east, but that doesn't come through till tomorrow. So if you are susceptible to the heat, the elderly, the kids, the pets, take care of them. Time now for your Tuesday Trivia, brought to you by Target.
I feel golden. I feel like glitter on my shoulders. I feel like I feel golden. I feel like, oh, I feel golden. And I'm feeling like gold. And I'm feeling brand new, brand new. Yeah, I'm feeling brand new. And I'm feeling brand new, brand new. Yeah, I'm feeling brand new.
The last of the high heat today. We're headed up to 95 degrees. In fact, by noon today, we should already be hovering around the 90-degree mark. Humidity will drop a bit today, but humidity is back up for the rest of the work week, as are those rain chances. Rain likely Wednesday and Friday in the form of some afternoon scattered thunderstorms. Even Saturday, we could have some wet weather moving through. So today, 95, tomorrow, 90 degrees, 89 for Thursday, this weekend in the upper 80s with drier conditions Sunday.
One way to cool off in this heat is to go indoors to an ice skating rink. Why not? And especially if you're in Las Vegas where it can get to 110 degrees. This is Benny, the ice skating dog, doing his thing there in Las Vegas. He's got some skills. I sense a new show opening up and might be sold out for the next 3 months with Benny.
I'd watch it. I'd pay to see it.
Our Cooper could have used that yesterday as well. We'll be right back.
Miles and miles and miles. Chasing a dream, only fools like me would follow. I'm just going with the flow.